Welcome back to the Witch's Way podcast. I'm Kat.
And I'm Jamie. And today we are tackling a very tough topic that's challenging, but it's also transformative. And for anybody who's empathic, like us witches tend to be, this is a topic that you know that you need help in. You've researched, you've read it, have other people have talked to you about it. I just know it. And this is how to love difficult people in your life. And they're difficult because some of the things we do, we're not perfect, but then it's also a difficult situation, which often is about learning. So whether it's a family member, a friend, a coworker, loving someone through hard times can really test our patience and our boundaries. That's going to be a big topic. Part of this is the boundaries. But what if we approach these relationships as opportunities to grow, not just for them, but for ourselves? Okay, so we're going to just dive right into this.
All righty. Oh, how do you love somebody through hard times without losing yourself? Mm-hmm. That is, and that's a question for the ages, isn't it?
I think so.
I think we do.
We get so wrapped up in it.
We can very easily lose, especially as empaths. And women. I mean, even just women.
Nurturing women, mothers, everything.
So one of the things we can do is acknowledge the struggle. Loving someone who is struggling can be emotionally draining. Whew. Yeah. It's important to recognize that their pain isn't yours to carry.
Now, how confidently can you say that statement, but actually feel confident doing that thing?
I can relate this to having children.
I think so too.
And even, of course, all of my children are adults, and I even have grandchildren that are adults now. And when I see them struggle, man, it's hard not to take that on. And I think I still do initially, for at least for a minute. I'm like, I feel everything.
Yeah.
And I just, I've always been a fixer. Well, I always was a fixer. I don't know that I'm so much a fixer anymore. But yeah, it's really hard when you see somebody that you love going through some shit and you just want to help them not go through it.
Yeah. You just you don't want to watch them struggle. And you want to fix that.
Yeah, but the thing to remember, the thing that we have to remember really, and I think as witches we can say this with confidence, and that is that we're in Earth's classroom. Earth is the classroom. We're here to learn unique lessons, each and every one of us, for our soul's evolution. And when we try to prevent other people from going through the fire, I'm just going to put it as going through fire, because when you're going through hard times, it's like walking through fire.
Sure.
When you try to stop somebody from having that experience, you're really robbing them of the opportunity to grow, because they've been put in that situation probably due to choices that they have made, and they need to be able to learn from those experiences. And if we intervene, gosh, I have so many stories that I could tell about this. It's not even funny, and I bet we all do.
Oh yeah.
Just one after the other after the other. We don't help them. We don't help them grow by trying to fix a situation or stop the pain from happening or jump in and solve the problem for them.
Sure.
We really actually do them a disservice by doing that.
Yeah. And we're putting a lot more on ourselves.
Well, that too. Yeah. Because we can't actually take away those lessons. We can't take away the pain that they're going through. We might be able to temporarily mitigate it by like giving them money to take care of their bills or whatever. But if they don't learn the lessons on how to manage their money, the lessons are going to keep coming up.
Absolutely.
So that's one example of like having a kid that you're rescuing because they can't keep up with their bills.
For sure. Yeah. Letting them like have an opportunity to grow.
Yeah.
So I think that an important thing that we can do is like defining what love really means, because I think that the other thing that's been thrown around is if you're not helping them, you don't love them. And you'll hear that from people who are struggling and they're not getting the help they want. Somebody's not solving their problem. They're like, you don't really love me then. It's like, yes, I fucking do. I do really love you. And that's why I'm going to let you have this experience, because I know it will grow you into a better person.
Yeah.
Like in my head, that's what I'm thinking, but it's so hard to do.
Well, some people think another version of that, you don't love me, is your families are supposed to come to the rescue.
Yeah.
Families are supposed to be there for whatever
for thick
happens.
and thin, through anything.
Yeah,
like,
blood's thicker than water, or
There's all these things that come up with it for loyalty. I think that's it's confused with loyalty.
Yes.
You know, this like saving somebody from themselves.
Yes.
But love doesn't mean fixing someone's problems or saving them from their lessons. True love involves support, compassion, and then respecting their journey. And I know that for me as a mom, respecting my son's journey as he's going through things has been really fucking hard, because I want to jump in. I want to save him. I want to direct him, because I know so much. I'm like, oh my gosh, if you had my knowledge, I could save you from all of these bad experiences. But you guys, how did I get that knowledge? Because I had to go through the fucking fire myself.
Yeah.
And that's what we, like for kids specifically, that's what we have to let them do.
Well, and I think when you say, you know, true love involves support, compassion, and respecting their journey, it also means that you are honoring their soul purpose here, if you will.
Absolutely.
Like, you don't know what they came here to learn. You don't know what their past life was, and what their karmic debt. You might be able to say, well, I can do your numerology, or I can do this or whatever, and know that you're missing these numbers. So here's what I think your karmic debt is. But we each come here with those debts from past lives.
We come here with things we want to learn.
We come here with things that we need, that we didn't get right.
Yeah, it could be that, but it's also like to just evolve. Because sometimes I think if we focus on the like, you came here to right wrongs from a past life, it's not always that. But think about like, as a soul progresses, to evolve, we have to put ourselves through the hard obstacles.
Agree.
And sometimes it's not because something didn't go right in the past life. Maybe everything went great in the past life. And they're like, you know what? I need more of a challenge. I need a fast track on spiritual growth. I've heard other spiritual leaders talk like that, where people who come in and they have like hard lesson, but they get to this spiritual evolution very fast because they've gone through so many so quickly.
Yeah.
I could see that too with some people. I think
it's just honoring, you know, what I was going to say about the support is what the support looks like.
Yeah.
It's listening. It's being the place where they can vent without offering solutions.
Right. Yeah, like truly just listening to them.
Just listening, yeah. A lot of times, I know you've talked about this with Cameron, is like he just needs somebody to listen to him.
He needs somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
He doesn't always need somebody to solve the problem.
He doesn't actually want anyone to solve his problems. That's been my, that's what I've experienced with him, is like he doesn't want problem solving. That's not what he's looking for. He's looking for understanding of what he's going through.
Yeah,
he wants to be heard. And the thing that I have found where I can connect with him is to share a similar experience from my life, so that he can see. And I don't
he's
say, hey,
alone.
He's not alone.
Yeah.
But like me too. I mean, here's what I went through that's very similar to that. Just so he can know that, I was once there in that situation, and here I am now.
Sorry, I had to take my watch off. I know that was confusing.
Oh, I thought you. Okay.
I had to take my watch off just now because my family, they're very meme happy, and my brother and my husband right now are going back with memes on the family chat, and my watch is like. I already tried to silence it, but I didn't get it. So now, if you guys heard all of that, that's what I'm trying to take my watch off, because it's like ding, ding, ding. They're having.
I didn't hear. I put my phone on.
I should have. Why didn't remind me next time?
Sorry, I put mine on Do Not Disturb, because
I know
they do have in the family chat. There's meme wars going on a regular basis.
They just do it randomly,
and it's like all of a sudden there's like 40 text messages, and you're like, what is happening?
Oh my gosh!
Or what happened?
So, yeah. Getting back to like defining what love really means, I also want you to just consider, this has happened within our family circle with all of us, but making sure that when you're trying to help your loved one or the person that you care so much about, we have the fixers that sometimes will focus on fixing everybody else's problems so that they don't have to fix their own. So this is like just a caveat in this podcast for, hey, consider, is it you possibly trying to not deal with your own stuff, so you reach out and you're looking for everybody else with problems and you try to fix them? Or are you noticing that in other people that you have around you as well, that they're always trying to fix other people's problems but never focusing on themselves? We've definitely seen that
in our family circle, where you see somebody keeping themselves so busy and wrapped up in other people's drama, that they can avoid their life.
Yeah, they can avoid their own stuff. Yeah. So what we really want to get into is how healthy boundaries are key. Like, love is truly focusing on healthy boundaries and how you interact with somebody. Because again, you don't want to take their journey and their soul's lessons and all the things that they came here to do. You want to give them, you want to honor and respect that decision.
Yeah.
So without healthy boundaries, love can quickly turn into enabling.
Oh, yeah.
And that word is tossed around a lot. Are you enabling them? You're an enabler. You know, I hear that in the relationship circles a lot.
Oh, sure.
Defining what you're willing to give and where you need to draw the line for your own well-being is what a healthy boundary is.
You know, we hear healthy boundaries all the time too. And
yeah.
in addition
That's
to
true.
enabling,
Yeah.
you know, healthy boundaries are just boundaries,
Or
right?
boundaries in
and
general,
sometimes,
yeah.
you know, it's really hard. It's like, is this a boundary? I don't know. Do I have boundaries? Am I questioning my own
What are my boundaries?
I know.
Sure.
This is something that I've had to work my whole life. I'm just not good with that.
How do you feel about it now?
I feel like I'm growing.
You're growing?
Still,
Okay.
I'm still,
Yeah.
you know, the universe serves up lessons for me from
Sure,
time to
that's
time
right.
to make sure that I'm like being able to determine, you know, like, okay, where's the line here?
Right.
What's my line? What's the line here?
Yeah.
But here's some examples of healthy boundary setting.
Yes.
Time boundaries. This has to do with time. So things like, I can't talk right now, but I'm available to chat tomorrow at 3, so that you're not constantly being, like, your life is not being interrupted. So
Yeah.
you're going to be there for the person that you're trying to support, but they can't stop on a dime. You can't stop on a dime, because you shouldn't, because also that
that's
gives
unhealthy.
them, well, it also gives them, not only does it set a clear expectation for them about when you're available, it ensures that your time's not taken for granted, and it allows you to, like, have respect for yourself and your life.
Yeah.
You know, so not just them taking advantage of you, but you also, like, giving up your whole life so that you can be there to answer somebody's
Text, call, email,
text, latest
FaceTime,
emergency, you know, latest
right.
crisis.
Yeah,
I mean, because with
everything's an
some people
emergency.
are
Everything's
crisis.
an emergency.
Yeah.
Everything's difficult. They can't handle anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Been there, done that with some friends.
Yeah. I've been in situations where I'm like, oh my God, they're calling. Now what?
It's right. For me, it was like a texting thing where, you know, I have to set the precedence of, I'm not always attached to my phone. So if you text me, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just not near my phone. I don't know
Yeah.
you're texting me. I'm not waiting by my phone to see what you need
Jamie
next.
does not carry her phone around
I
in her
don't.
pocket. She
Just-
usually leaves it somewhere and then goes off into the garden.
Yep.
Or goes off doing things.
I specifically have a watch that pings my phone so I can find it when I lose it, because I lose it all the
I know.
time. All the
I
time.
know. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
all the
familiar.
So the next one would be emotional boundaries. An example of this is like saying, I understand you're upset, but I can't be your only source of support. Have you considered talking to a therapist? This is, again, it's a pull on your time, but it's also like, you, as empaths, we take on the feelings and emotions of others. So I know that when my close friends and family members have something going on, it's hard for me not to feel everything they're going through and like feel the weight of the conversation. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that happened to you. And then I think about it. I ruminate on it. It's like, it
Yes.
affects my sleep. I'm going to bed thinking about it. That's a boundary for me to set with myself, to be like, that's not my problem. We had this funny thing we used to say, not my circus, not my monkeys. I got that from a friend a long time ago, but it's like, that was you trying to draw a line in your mind of, that is actually not my problem, and I don't need to be thinking about it and solving it. Like,
Yeah.
learning how to listen to them, but then also redirecting them and saying like, hey, I think your problems or your situation, like, you need so much time, you might need a therapist, and not in
Yeah.
a rude way, like in a very loving, caring
Yeah.
way.
Absolutely.
You know? Yeah. So it protects your emotional energy, and it encourages the other person to take responsibility for their emotions. It can feel really off-putting at first when you're drawing that line and being
Oh,
like,
yeah.
hey, this is a lot for me.
Yeah.
You know, and there could be lots of feelings that come up around that. Journal about it, write it down. Don't try to solve it, but when you have to go through that, just write about it and be like, this was really uncomfortable. Here's how I'm feeling about it. You know, maybe you're like, I'm not a good enough friend or family member. I feel like I should be able to do more. But remember that you have to take care of yourself first, so that you can take care of other people. Like it's the oxygen mask analogy, right? You got to put your own oxygen mask on first before somebody else's.
Speaking of uncomfortable, physical boundaries. Yeah. Here's an example. I'm not comfortable with hugging right now. Let's do a handshake instead. Ugh.
The touchy-feelies.
Yeah, I can think of many times when I've...
Did it happen at work more?
Yes.
Yes. Me too.
I just hate that.
What is that?
I just hate that. Yeah, there was a girl that used to want to like rub my neck, like when I had my shoulders were like really sore, and she's like, "Oh, here, I'll give you a massage."
Yeah.
I'm like, "No, don't touch me.
No, don't. I don't like it at all.
No, I don't like that.
Yeah.
But what this does when you draw that line of that physical, boundary, like you're still physical, but it's not as intimate. A handshake is definitely not as intimate as a hug. But it communicates very clearly your physical comfort level without compromising your feelings or your safety. So, I can probably see this being used in a lot of different places. Work is one.
Work is definitely
dating
one.
Is another, or with any, male-female type interactions where guys sometimes can be pretty forward and handsy and touchy-feely and shit.
So I did salsa lessons for 2 years. I loved salsa. I loved all things like dancing in the club like that because there was a method to it. It wasn't just like freak dancing or twerking or whatever. Back in that day, there wasn't even twerking yet. But bumping and grinding was not my style, but I liked dance. I liked music. I liked the whole thing of it. It's so much fun. And I would often dance with like older male partners. And, the Latin community that I was around, when you walk in, everybody's like hugging, kissing on the cheeks. It's so physical. And for me, that was just like, ooh, no, please don't. I don't like that. Like, I'm not really into that. And I had to be very vocal about telling them, like, I love that that's your culture. I'm uncomfortable with that because of things I've been through in my own life. Like, I don't like that kind of physical touch. Maybe when we get to know each other really well and you feel like an uncle, it won't seem creepy to me. But, like, even for younger guys, didn't like it. Like, don't do it. It feels too forward for me, all that.
Feels like an invasion of your space, your personal space.
Does.
And, I have never been able to enjoy massages.
I was just talking about this with somebody the other day.
I haven't because of the whole touching and rubbing my body.
A stranger rubbing all over your body?
Yeah, I've never, I know people rave about them. It's like, I don't know where that came from, but it just feels too intimate and personal, and I feel squishy and judging and all of these things that are going through my mind is like
you can't relax at all.
It's very difficult for me to do that. Very difficult.
Do I get that from you?
Do you love massages?
No. What? No.
Oh, okay.
No, I want them all the time, but from my husband or somebody close to me, but I don't get them. And in my last therapy session, my counselor said, I think that you need to focus more on self-care. And I was like, huh? Because I told her, I was like, I'm doing great. Like, everything's been really great. She's like, I think you need self-care. I'm like, I think we should stop seeing each other. Like, I went in there to actually break up with her. Not because it's bad. It's just because I don't really need anything in my life right now. Like, I'm doing good. But with the VA, if you don't see them every 2 months, they close your account and then you got to like reapply. And if something went on, it'd be like 4 months till I get a therapist. So I just keep it going. So it was just really funny that here I am telling her, I'm doing great. Like, everything's really good in my life. Like, I'm at this very nice place. I'm comfortable. I'm not struggling with anything, and she's like, I think you need to work on self-care. I was like, what the fuck? That's like the opposite of what I just said. She's like, what's one thing? So, I went with it. I was like, okay, tell me what I need. And she's like, what's one thing that you do for self-care? And I was like, well, actually, like, here's all the things I do for self-care. She's like, what's the one thing you want but you've not done? I was like, I would get a massage. Like, gardening is fucking hard, and I'm bent over a lot, and my knees and my shoulders, and sometimes I sleep on my arm the wrong way and it's sore for like a week, and I would love to be able to go get a massage, but I do not love the idea of somebody touching me. Like, I'm going to gift my husband a massage book and be like, learn how to do do for me, please. Or my sister or something.
God, maybe that's something we could do together, like, and get
learning
over
massage or go to one.
So we could get past our like super uncomfortable with
Have you ever had a massage?
Once.
Me too, once.
Well, actually, I think twice. Once when I was in one of the WMA things, you know,
Yeah.
I used to go to the meetings. I think it was in Arizona. I went and had a massage at one of the spas because they gave it to us,
Yeah.
you know, because we were planning the meeting there. And then a friend of mine, the last one that I remember was somebody either gifted me something and I went with them out to this place in Blue Springs. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I told the massage therapist, like, I'm not really comfortable with this. It's like, so they made me, you know, try to help me be more comfortable with it. But the crazy thing about this place is, like, the rooms that the little spaces that you were getting your massage in were just
like curtains.
They were curtains only.
Like an ER, like
so
how you're curtained off in
exactly.
bed.
So like the whole place, it was like it's wide open.
Holy shit.
Like a big.
Oh, that's really uncomfortable.
It was so weird because
is
you could
odd.
hear everything. It was like I could not relax.
Oh my
so
God.
that did not do anything to help me
That
like
heightened your
enjoy
anxiety.
Exactly.
Oh God. So physical boundaries, you know, I think that's where we were. Was that where we were?
Yeah, we
Where
were
did
on
get
physical
off?
boundaries, and I
Yeah.
think you know. Another thing that I think is pretty common is when people get in your personal space when you're out in public. Like, say you're standing in line and someone gets right up on you. Mm-hmm. Ooh, man. I mean, that's like a stranger, and I feel so uncomfortable when somebody gets too close to me.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a man.
Especially, yeah.
Especially if it's a man. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh.
I've
I mean, it's the same with women, though. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but this is my
I need a
space.
3-foot bubble at least. Like,
Yeah.
just, you know, I'm not
And you
asking
know what?
for
And
a
I
ton.
don't really I move instead of saying something.
So do I. I actually take myself out of lines.
yeah, I'll move.
You know, with my
instead of confronting it like
Yeah.
directly.
With my international travel, that was something that I had to get used to, is like being around non-American men that might have held ideas of what American women are. You know, I think I might have told you the story in Japan. I was eating in a little curry place by myself, and a Japanese guy came in and started yelling at me at the table. Like, he sat at my table and then was yelling at me, and I had no idea what he was saying, and everybody in the restaurant was staring at us, and I was like, looking at anybody, I was like, help, hello, like, what's he saying? I don't you know, and the cook, all places in Japan are tiny, so like you can see the whole restaurant. There's, you know, you can fit maybe like 12 people in there.
Right.
But the cook was looking and he's watching, and the look on his face is like, what in the fuck? Why is this? He looked confused, so I knew it was something. I was like, it's not aggressive like he wants to hurt me. Nobody jumped up to save me, but he was very confused. Do you know that when I asked I was like, what did he say? What was going on? Because the guy eventually just got up and left. Like, nobody did anything.
Wow.
And then he just left. And the reason that he came and sat down is because the restaurant faces the street, and he could see me in the glass. So he saw me at my table and must have come in. Like, he knew exactly what he came in to do, and that was all he did, and then left.
Well,
so I asked
please
the
tell
guy.
me you finally found out what he was saying.
Yes, and it's so weird. So back then I was blonde. I would get highlights and stuff, you know, and kept my hair like blonde. So being blonde hair, blue eyes, and I'm large chested, I'm well endowed. He thought I was a porn star. Yeah, I know you weren't expecting that because I was not either.
What?
Yes, that I don't know. Like,
So why was he yelling? What was he yelling about?
that I was disgusting. That I was a whore or whatever. Like, he was. They didn't tell me all the words, but he's
my
like,
God.
he said, "Are you an adult entertainer?" And I was like, "A what? Like, a what? An adult entertainer? Like, what do you mean?" Like, I was thinking stripper, and he's like, "No, do you do like adult films?" And I'm like, Do you fucking mean sex films? Like, did he just think that I was a sex worker film person?
Oh my God. That is
Embarrassed. I was embarrassed for myself and everybody.
so
like,
bizarre.
so crazy, right?
You've never told me that story before.
Yeah.
I'm never going to forget that for the rest of
Shocking.
my life.
Yeah, I'll never forget it for the rest of my life.
Oh my God.
So I've had experiences where when we were in Korea, we were walking down the street, and, you know, I'm 5'6". I'm a little bit taller than most people there, just a little bit. But my friend Tanya, she is 5'7", so she was much taller than people there, right? And she had long blonde hair. We all blonde hair. They were yanking our hair as we were walking down the fucking street, like we weren't real, poking us. You'd have like your hair pulled randomly.
What?
And we had crossed the street to where like a subway, people were coming out. So all of a sudden, you're walking down the street, there's nothing going on. Then all of a sudden there's this rush of people, and there's you're so crowded, and then you start getting yanked and pulled and prodded, and like it's fucking crazy, and you can't tell where it's coming from. They're all a little bit shorter than you, so you don't know who's touching you. And we just ducked into, you won't believe it, what was over there? A Baskin Robbins. And that was on the main street. We were in Korea, and like, so I've had these experiences already, so
Wow.
I'm on alert when it comes to my physical
Yes.
space as
Yes.
is. But yeah, that's just 2 examples of
Wow.
random shit happening to
All
me.
mine have usually involved men trying to, get up on me or some
Yeah,
shit.
like get way
thinking
too close.
Yeah, just get way too
Oh, yeah.
close when they don't know you at all.
Yeah.
Or, they're trying to flirt, I guess is what
And
they're
it
trying to
ain't
do.
cute.
Ugh.
So the other thing I think about with physical boundaries that I didn't initially consider while we were putting this together, but I used to have somebody who would show up at my house unannounced. Just come over. So I don't know if that goes into time.
That is
Physical
such
boundary.
a thing.
Yeah.
That is such a thing of people
fucking
like
boundary.
just showing up
Yeah,
at your house
unannounced.
No, who does that?
Who does that? People who don't have home manners. So that sort of goes into like they're physically coming into your space. So, what do? Like you need to ask them to leave now. A phone call you can end easily, but if they show up at your house and then they linger and stay. I have an ex-friend that she came to the house when I wasn't even there and tried to wait for me. And I was like, leave my house right now. You should not be there. Like, I'm not there. You shouldn't be there. This is really inappropriate.
Yeah.
And she didn't leave because we have cameras at the house, right? She stayed there and like ate food out of the fridge and did all kinds of weird shit. Yes, this is an example of that person probably doesn't need to be in your life if they are crossing boundaries that
somebody that you
hard.
used to love and now you don't.
Yeah, the love is gone.
The difficult person, you extricated them from your life.
Sometimes that has to happen. Sometimes that snip.
Excised. Cut out with a
Yeah.
knife. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
So on to
The physical thing. I can't believe how much we got into the physical.
oh man,
you know.
just
Even though that's not like, the subject of this podcast is loving
More for
difficult
people.
is
Yeah,
loving
you love.
difficult people in your life.
Yeah.
But the people who are crossing your boundaries, you may not love them. You may not even know them. But I think the point here is that we can make, and just kind of coming full circle with this,
Yeah.
Jamie, is to say that we each have to know our boundaries. And when
Yeah.
we do...
Our own boundaries, that's true.
Our own
Yep.
personal boundaries.
Yeah.
We have to be firm in
Yep.
what those are. And when we can do that with everyone in our lives, people that we know and people that we don't know, then it's easier to have boundaries with the people that are close
we
to
do
us
love.
because
Absolutely.
we already practice that.
True, yeah.
Boundary setting with people that we don't know.
excellent way to tie that all in. Thank you, because we know we get off on some bantering.
We do.
And I'm sure you guys love those stories and they're very interesting, but it was not on topic. Like always.
Which happens a lot around here.
Oh my gosh. One thing leads to another. So, we kind of talked through the physical boundaries and it being at work, right? So the next thing is boundaries with work and personal life. And maybe you have, bosses that expect you to be on until 10 p.m.
There are a lot of those.
I know. It's shocking. So
Shocking.
I think that setting an example for work stuff is like, I don't answer work emails after a certain time and I'll respond to it first thing tomorrow. Like, I feel bad that you even have to say something like that or that you're not going to respond to a text or call. Like, I am on my personal time right now. But that is where, if you have really good friends at work, because this is how it happened to me, I'm really good friends with the people that I worked with at my last job.
Yeah.
And so we could communicate through text as friends after work.
Yeah.
But then what happened was they would text me work questions after work hours too. And I'm like, well, now see, that's different. When we were talking about like a show we both liked or when you're going to catch the game, cool. But when you're asking me like, did this report get done today or how many people we had on this? Like, no, that's actually meant for, the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And they needed to have that boundary. And I had to set it for myself where I'm like, I luckily can just be like, you know what? I don't look at my phone once I'm home because I'm with the people that I care about. And nobody needs me after this hour.
Right.
My kid's home, my husband's home, back when I was working that job.
Yeah.
So I can see where the work life thing
I just want to say the reality of this is I'm not good at the work not responding. I'm not good at not responding.
You don't have a healthy boundary
I
with
don't
your
have
work.
a healthy boundary with my work because
Okay.
my work has been like my whole life and I'm super
Your
committed to
identity,
it.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think something recently did happen though. Like on a weekend, I got a message from somebody like looking for a price list. Did it go out? And I can't find it. And I was like, okay, I'll send it to you. It's like, no, you don't need to do that. Normally, I would go ahead and do it anyway because I'm like, you need the price list, so I'm going to get you the price list.
Yeah.
And I didn't. And I was like, oh, look at that. The world's kept spinning
Yeah,
even though I didn't
nothing
respond
happened.
immediately. Yeah, like
Yeah.
nothing fell apart. And actually the next work day, which I think was a Monday, he messaged me because I forgot about it. Once I let it go and didn't do anything with it, I went on about my weekend.
Yeah.
And then Monday morning, he's like, hey, I never found that price list. Can you send it to me? Look at that.
Yeah.
That was probably
That was the better thing to do. So now you're training him.
Yeah.
She's going to respond if I send it on Monday. If I send it on Saturday morning, I didn't get a response.
Yeah.
That's called reinforcing good behavior. do not give bad behavior any attention, and you reinforce the good behavior by, when they do the thing the right way. Yeah.
Another boundary that we need to talk about, which is so big.
It's huge.
Financial boundaries. So here's an example of this. I'm happy to help with advice, but I can't lend money right now.
Yeah.
This protects you from financial strain while still offering support in other ways. So I have a lot to say about this because I personally do not believe in like loaning people money. I won't loan people money.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I can't say that I feel like it's a really slippery slope when someone asks you to borrow money and then like you might as well just plan on, unless you cannot.
If you can afford to not get it back, go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
But if you can't afford to not get it back, don't do it.
Yeah, don't do it.
Because I think that's what I've learned with lending people money, lending air quotes, right?
Yeah.
Is like I'm helping them out in a tough situation. And what I used to do in the past is get really pissed off when they weren't like very, like, I'm going to get you that back. I'm going to get you that back. First off, we grew up really poor and money was a big thing, and it's like I value the money that I've earned because I fucking worked hard for it.
Yeah.
Like whatever I did, I worked hard for it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just like willy-nilly throw it around.
Yeah.
And I never thought about having money in such excess that I should give it away either. It's like, no, that's everybody's responsibility to earn their living or whatever.
Yeah.
I've since come off of that high horse and think about money in a very different way, but I don't think about how I help other people in a different way or what I give away in a different way. I think about it as, is it financially responsible for me to give this person money to help them out and not expect it back? If they give it back to me, great. Guess what? I just found $5. But if I don't get it back, it's like, it's not going to hurt me, and I'm not going to let it affect our relationship, because I think that's the commitment we have to make to ourselves, is that if you don't get it back, how will this impact your relationship?
Yeah.
You know, how resentful are you going to get? How mad are you going to be?
I'm going to be resentful.
Right.
I can tell you. I mean, I went through this in my last relationship toward the end. Oh, I just need $135 to fix some part on my car. And I sent the $135. And I was like, what the fuck did you do that for?
Yeah.
I probably didn't even go to a car part. Like, and why are you helping this person still?
Yeah.
You know, so
again, it goes back to you having that boundary to set, which is
having
hard.
a boundary, it's really hard.
Because you want to almost put it on the other person, like, you should pay me back. You should.
Yeah.
But really, it starts with us. I mean, a lot of it starts with us understanding our own boundaries and what we need to set for ourselves in order to be okay.
And then finding a way, and I think of the other thing that is on our shoulders as well is to find a way to respond to people when these situations come up with kindness and compassion, but not crossing our bound, not crossing. If you don't want to loan money, if that's your thing, then don't do that, but find a way to be, maybe you offer advice or some other type of advice for them because you can't, I mean, we grew up poor. I worked 3 jobs, 2 jobs full time almost, I guess 5 times 25 hours a week at my second job. And then the other job that I just did weekends or whatever. So I worked really hard, and it took me a long time to pull myself up and get to a place where I didn't feel like life was just such a struggle all the time, and I was barely making ends meet. It took a long time to get out of that. And so I have more money now. I'm able to help now, and I do, and I would. But loaning money,
Yeah.
That would be a hard one for me.
And for each person, it's deciding what you're okay with and then sticking to that. And that's not always easy,
No,
because
it's
you might
not.
you might have that guilty feeling, or that like, I'm not doing enough and I should be able to do this, or you start to really doubt yourself or feel lack or feel like you're not enough when you can't do all the things that you wish you could do. But remember that even if you don't help people out in the way that they need you to, you're still, if you're there loving them and supporting them and talking to them in other ways, you're still loving them. That's still love. Showing up for them means you're there while they're dealing with the problem. That doesn't mean saving them from it. It doesn't mean that they should expect that from you.
Yeah.
You know?
Now that we've explored what loving someone through hard times looks like, let's talk about how to know when your help is truly needed and when it might be doing more harm than good.
Definitely. So when to step in and when to step back. You know, I wish that there had been parenting books on this when I was raising Cameron. Like, because I would have just seen things differently. You know, I would have just let some more things happen and I would have taken a step back. Like, stepping in or stepping back. So assess the situation, number one. All right. Are they asking for your help, or are you stepping in uninvited? See, that's us being uncomfortable watching somebody be uncomfortable.
Yes.
We're stepping in uninvited.
Yeah.
They don't need our help.
Yeah.
We're just uncomfortable seeing them struggle.
Yeah.
Sometimes people just need someone to listen. Like Kat was saying earlier, that when somebody comes to you with like problems or things on their mind, they're not always looking for solutions. And if you're anything like the two of us, we're trying to solve people's problems as soon as they walk through the door.
My mind immediately goes to
solution.
And my mind immediately goes to what's the solution to this problem,
Like,
even if
can
I don't
solve
say
this.
anything.
Right, I know.
And I've
Same.
learned, you know, keep getting this lesson about just zip it.
Yeah.
And just listen.
Learn to just listen.
Learn to listen.
Learn to
And,
listen. Not solve their problem. Yeah.
Another thing, know the signs of detrimental helping. Woo!
Detrimental helping.
Detrimental helping. Constantly rescuing someone can prevent them from learning responsibility or even resilience. Ask yourself, is your help empowering them, or is it making them dependent on you?
That is such a vital question.
Oof. That's so deep.
I always think of empowering people comes from giving them knowledge, whereas having them depend on you is giving them rides and money and buying them stuff, and like they go to you as a grocery store kind of, you know. It's like, oh, I know where I get my supplies from.
Yeah.
But knowledge is something that once you give it to them, nobody can take that away from them. They can't lose it. You know, it doesn't like get spent at a casino or whatever. It's like giving them knowledge and stories that they can rely on to help them learn lessons. You know, I loved those moral of the story is, right? Like anything where you can tell them a story and there's a moral to it so that they can fucking learn it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that you can do is point out that they've already done this like 3 times, and why do they keep doing the same thing again? Point out their pattern if you see it.
Yeah.
That's the other thing I've done to try to help people. It's like, do you remember last year when you did this same thing? Like, how did that go for you? Like, what happened? And maybe you do step in the first time and help. But then all the times after that, you're like, no, you didn't really learn that lesson. You're back in the same spot.
Well, I think that's your lesson then when that happens. It's
Definitely, it
flips. Now the lesson is yours to learn.
Now
You're
it's
like,
yours.
oh shit, wait a minute. Didn't we just do this 6 months ago?
Yeah.
And now here we are again. It's like, there's a lesson in here for me.
Definitely. And that really brings us to like the third point, which is communicating clearly, having those honest conversations. Let them know how you can be there for them, like to support them, but not to take over their struggles and direct their life and plan their meals and, you know, make sure they have gas in their car and remind them to brush their teeth and wipe their butt and whatever you got to do. Like, don't take over their struggles of whatever they're dealing with. You know, practice phrases like this. I'm here for you, but I also need to take care of myself. If there's mutual love there, they're not going to be mad at you for a statement like that because they understand that they want you to be taken care of as well. That's how I think we can alleviate some of our guilt. Like, I got to take care of me.
Yeah.
So the other day, my sister kind of stepped in on, like, she gave me her opinion of a thing that happened with Cameron. He needed to pick up his meds, right? But it's like 7:30 at night. I was just getting ready to have my first drink with my husband. probably first and only
Not
drink.
Cameron and his meds, because I have stories about
I'm
that.
telling this is my son, you guys, and listen, he needs his epilepsy meds. It literally cannot go without them. He will have seizures. So it's important. But what my child will do is he will sometimes wait until he is literally
The last minute.
last pill.
And the store's going to close in 30 minutes.
and it's like he fucking last minutes us.
Yeah, he last minutes me too.
And
he does that shit
so,
with me, and it
yes.
really is annoying.
Exactly. And there's, so now we're looking at, this isn't just like teach him the lesson by, no, I'm not going. He has to have the fucking medicine or off seizures. Like, we can't let that happen, right? But how do we move Cameron into a place where, hey, this is really inconvenient for me. So the last time that I ran out and got him medicine and brought it down to him and all of that, because he no longer lives at home. He lives with my mom, 15 minutes away. But what I told him when I saw him, I said, listen, this really inconvenienced me, and you're actually stopping me from like taking care of myself and doing my evening routine and what I had planned. This was really like, I'm not going to do this anymore with you. And so if you're going to need something, I need way more time. Like, give me a couple days. It's okay. I don't mind picking this stuff up for you. I can be there to do that, but I don't want to do it. I don't want to be like, oh my gosh, Publix closes at 9, it's 8:30 and I need to go right now, or else.
It's super inconvenient. He's done
it's
that.
a lot of
He's
pressure.
done that shit with me too.
Yeah. So that's one of our, we're probably still getting through it, I guess, but that happened. It's not been that long. So my sister tells me.
That was probably the night I told him no, I wasn't.
Yeah,
He'll come
probably.
to me and said.
He'll come to you first, then me.
Well, what he did is he came and said, when's the next time you're going to Publix? And I was like, I don't really go to Publix that often.
Oh, okay.
And I did not ask what he needed because I honestly didn't want to know. I wasn't going to. I was like.
Because you didn't want to solve his problem.
That was a way not to solve it. It's like, yeah, I don't go to Publix. So then he called you. But.
So this is a medical condition where now he has to be responsible for taking care of himself. And it took this hard conversation with him where I told him, I am here for you, but I need you to make sure that I'm able to take care of myself and you're not last minuting me and putting me out and like, because I said, what if I had already had a drink, Cameron? I would not be able to drive. And so then who are you calling? Like, what's going to happen if I'm not available? I really need you to start thinking ahead with this, and he's like, you're right. Okay. So giving him that thing to kind of ruminate on, I'm hoping helps build a different pattern for him to ask for help. So. But,
I'll try to reinforce that same concept of, thinking ahead and me not having to drop everything in my life.
Yeah.
So that
I'm not your on-demand person.
On-demand. I'm not your Uber driver.
I'm not your on-demand person.
Learning when to help is just as important as knowing how to communicate effectively. Oh, we were just talking about that.
I'm telling you. Oh, yes.
Let's explore how to navigate conversations with emotionally difficult people.
I think that's really tough.
That is very tough.
Because this is people with depression. They could have, I have PTSD, ADHD, dyslexia. I'm pretty easy to communicate with, but if I'm tired or something's been going on, I'm not. I shut down. I go to my hole is what I call it. I'm like, I am not available anymore. So that would be more difficult. So I can say for myself, I can be a difficult person to communicate with when I have a lot of emotions going on.
I'm not looking away or anything like that.
I know, because we're never going to say a Scorpio would be difficult emotionally to
I've never been a difficult person.
But I think
for the last maybe year or 2 or 3.
I think the first thing that you can really do is stay grounded and calm. This is where I know Kat was going to say it, but I'll say it first. Observe, don't absorb. You want to observe the things that are going on, but you don't have to absorb them and feel responsible for them. Difficult conversations can trigger emotions. They do usually trigger emotions. And you just take a few deep breaths before responding to anything, like to really clear the first flush of emotions that come on. Excuse me, I got a little dry tickle in my throat. And then try to approach the situation with like empathy rather than frustration. That's how in talking about what we were just going through with Cameron, that's what we're doing. It's like, I'm not yelling at him. I'm not telling him like, hey, damn it, you need to do better. Like, no, I'm like, hey, this it was a thought out conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Use I statements, avoid accusations or placing blame. Instead, frame your feelings in terms of your own experience. For example, I feel overwhelmed when you ask me to take on this responsibility. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Making it about you and not saying, like, I've done so much relationship training, and then through my psych program, I always loved this. When you get into arguments, it's usually like, you make me feel. No. Nobody can make you feel a way.
Right.
You're in charge of your own emotions. So when you talk about the emotions, don't say, you make me feel. Say, when this happens, I feel.
Right.
That's a much better way to approach it. The next thing would be to set expectations. Be clear about what you can and can't do. And that fosters mutual respect and prevents misunderstandings. That goes back to clear communication as well.
Yeah.
It's just... Sometimes I've had to literally write things down on paper, you guys, before I go and have the conversation.
Oh my
that
God.
my mind
so the
is
whole
together.
thing that happened with Cameron back in November where I thought I was going to have the conversation about,
get a job or get out, basically.
Yeah. Or here's the expectation going forward, because I was ready to things needed to change. He needed to go to work. That was it. And he'd been avoiding adulting for a while.
Yeah.
And so I was going to sit down with him and you, and I was going to write down what I was going to say so that I could stay on point and not get off track. And then I was also in my mind, so I had all this stuff formulated in my head. And I was also going to have little things on the page that were like what to say if he tried to come back and say something, so to get it back on track.
Right.
And just like a 2-minute thing, here's what's going on. Here's where I stand. This is how it has to be. And that's the way it is. So I think when you can, and especially with people that are emotionally difficult in your life, is sometimes it's really good to write them down, or even if you don't get to the point where you write them down, you have thought clearly about what you need to say.
Absolutely. I know that raising teenagers is really difficult. So, obviously...
Raising children is difficult. It's not just...
Well, the teenage years were really hard for me. He was a joy. And then he hit 13 and he was like, I'm going to switch out of my amazing, adorable, fun kid costume, and I'm going to put on my... fuck everybody costume, and I care about nothing anymore. Yeah. There was this switch. Yeah. But what I had Cameron do, and this is just a tip for anybody listening in case you hear things and you think, if this could help you, that's why I'm telling you. I had us sit down and write together on the same piece of paper what Mom is responsible for and what Cameron is responsible for. Setting very clear expectations on what each of us do in terms of his schedule, when he eats, brushing his teeth, showering, clothes being clean, everything. Because he's been doing his laundry since he was about 9 years old. And I taught him to clean and all that. And then when he got to teenage, he was like, I'm not doing any of that shit anymore. Yes, you are, or you'll be dirty. Your lack of cleanliness is not going to make me want to help you more. So we wrote down together, and that's something that can be done, especially with somebody with depression. I would say that can be very helpful for them to have a reminder on a piece of paper that's okay, here's what I need to do that I'm responsible for. And those can change. You can adjust them. But I think seeing it on paper, writing it down, having that conversation. So we're using all of these, right? You're staying calm. You're using the I statements. Here's what I'm going to do. And then they'll state, here's what I'm going to do. And then you set the expectations, and there's no confusion. It's like what you said. If he says something and then you get off track, you lose all the great points you had in your head that you were going to make. Yeah.
To wrap things up, let's look at some resources that can support you on this journey of loving difficult people while maintaining your own well-being and taking care of yourself.
All right, you guys know I love books, okay? I think by now everybody knows I love books and knowledge. So I'm going to recommend 2 books. The first one is called Boundaries, and it's by Dr. Harry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend.
Henry.
Oh, shit. Henry. Sorry.
Well, I think Harry is the nickname for Henry.
Oh, I don't even know that.
Okay, but it's Henry Cloud and John Townsend.
Henry Cloud and John Townsend. Boundaries. So the main point of this book is boundaries help you take control of your life by defining what you are responsible for and what you are not. That's literally what I just said. I know. Because that's...
When I think about all the boundaries I didn't have in my intimate relationships because I took on responsibility for other people's shit that I should have let them be responsible for. Do you know how much pain and suffering and money and time that would have saved me?
Yes.
Just that simple thing. I needed this book about 40 years ago.
So the book teaches that saying no to others doesn't mean that you're being selfish. And I think that that's something we deal with as women. It's like saying no can be really hard.
Yes.
It means that you're prioritizing your own needs and responsibilities in a healthy way. And yeah, saying no. Like that's learning how to say no to people you love. That's hard. That's really hard.
Yeah.
So the second book, which I have not read, is called The Gifts of Imperfection, and it's by Brene Brown, right? And I love all her videos. I don't really listen to her
I've never heard
books.
of her.
Oh my gosh, she does TED Talks. All her TED Talks are great.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
I love her TED Talks, Brene Brown. But the main point of her book, The Gifts of Imperfection, it explores how letting go of societal expectations. Okay, this is where I really liked the flip. Like, where do we get these expectations that we set for the people in our lives? And are they unrealistic? Or are they too giving, like yours, like letting everybody cross your boundaries?
Yeah.
So it's how to let go of societal expectations, perfectionism, which I really struggle with, and then the need for external validation, which people won't love me if I don't do this, right? That's that external validation. It allows you to cultivate your own authenticity, resilience, and self-compassion. So that is on my Audible list of books to listen to because I feel like I could really get something out of that too.
You know, when you read this, when you said this, I thought to myself, when you mentioned me, like not having boundaries with anybody, the crazy thing is I have walls but no boundaries.
That is crazy. Yeah.
Walls but no boundaries.
Yeah.
What the fuck? That's another podcast.
That sounds like some shadow
That sounds
work,
like
journaling,
actually,
a
you know what?
podcast.
The next thing that we can do, therapy.
Therapy.
Yeah.
Getting a therapist, if you can, I always recommend it. It's just so helpful to have a different person's point of view. And I do believe that you should have a good rapport with your therapist before things get super deep. And that's what actually takes time, is like learning to trust a stranger and tell them about your life and then listen to them. Most of the time when smart people offer us advice, we don't listen because we're like, what the fuck do you know? You don't know me. That is such the wrong attitude to have. Think about therapy like going in and getting a fresh perspective on a situation you've been dealing with that they have insight into that you would never know. And you don't have to stick with it very long.
Yeah, well, I just want to share an experience that I had with therapy. When the first time that Tim and I broke up, I was devastated. I was like literally couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't anything. And I went to a therapist. We had an EAP program, employee
EAP.
assistance,
Employee
assistance program, free.
Yeah.
So you could get like 6 counseling sessions for free. And I took advantage of that. And I
love that.
went and I just, cried and poured my heart out and all the things. And I don't remember even anything, not one single thing that the therapist said to me in particular, but the therapist listened to me. And I got to get all this shit that I was feeling that was weighing on me, that was so incredibly heavy, that was preventing me from eating or sleeping or doing anything except ruminating over and over and over again in my head about the breakup and what, it was just, another time I did this was, so sometimes therapy is not an option because we don't have money. And that's a reality.
Yeah.
But when I was with Chuck, that was my second husband, and, things were,
Tanky.
Hey, shh. Things were, you're going to have to go in the bedroom. Somebody must be here. Things were really bad. I was really struggling. I wanted to leave him. I couldn't leave him. And so I went to Kansas, Kansas University School. So it was a university in Kansas City.
Yeah.
They had, you could get free therapy through their therapists that were going through college because they needed to have so many hours.
Yeah, working
so
hours.
I found that as a source. So I don't know if those kind of resources are still available to people.
Yeah.
But it's something like if you're looking for a therapist and you don't have the money to pay for one, you don't have insurance or whatever, or somebody in your life doesn't, check a local college to see if they have something like that. So I was able to go and meet with this young girl who was in school.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like part of her curriculum was she had to meet with people
So
and
many
do
hours,
so
yeah.
many hours. And that, you know what, I still remember how much talking to her helped me sort out
Process,
the shit that I was going through with him at that time, where I was so fucking unhappy.
Yeah.
Therapy, you know, there's just no substitute for it.
Right.
So
I think it is, what you mentioned is really good, because like I see therapy as from a point of there's a back and forth, but honestly sometimes when you're in a place, all you need is somebody to listen to you.
Yeah.
And you're not really looking again for them to give you ideas or solve your problem. You're like, I just need to talk about this and feel heard.
Yeah.
And when I went in for my screening for my PTSD, it was like, you know, there's all this crying, there's so much coming out, and she never interrupted me. And then all she said at the end of it was, she's like, what happened to you was really fucking awful. Like, she cussed and everything. She's a Navy doctor. And just hearing that validated everything. Oh my God.
For
just
sure.
having her say that to me was like, you're a person who knows your shit, and you just told me all of this was fucked up. And for so long, everybody else tried to push it under the carpet.
Yeah.
So just hearing that was like, oh my God, thank you for saying that. Like, I knew it was.
That was really,
But it really helped.
Yeah, for
Like,
sure.
I didn't cry as much ever again after that. Like, because it was, I got validated. And she, you know, was like, yeah, all this is real. All this shit you've been feeling, it's all real.
So another resource that you might find, and that may be more readily available than even therapy, is social groups.
Yeah.
Like support groups.
Definitely.
Like I know when John was a teenager, when he was like 13 and we were really going through some shit, I went to Tough Love.
Yeah.
I went to a Tough Love parent support group because I was having that John was my oldest, and he was hard, and it was really tough when he turned like 13 years old.
13-year-old boys, man.
13-year-old boys, and he just a switch flipped, just like with Cameron.
Yep.
And all of a sudden he was horrible to me and getting in trouble at school and just out of control. Like there was nothing, like angry and
the anger that comes out.
The anger, and so I went to Tough Love for a while. So there's, you know, support groups. Now the great thing is we have these things online, so you don't even have to like meet up. So you don't even have to go. I actually went to physical meetings, you know.
Yeah.
But if you've got somebody, you know, in your life, they may even have groups for people who have to live with people with certain emotional problems. I don't know.
Well, I joined an epilepsy group. I joined a couple of them. Yeah, they're just online, but when all this happened, I really didn't know who to turn to or where to get information, and they became a really great place just for information at first, you know, like I don't carry on conversations with them and we don't meet, but I'm aware of the things going on in the epilepsy community, and I learned a lot from that. I just learned so much. Are you still doing that? Yeah, I still have.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I don't go all the time because we're at a good place. But
that's how that's one of my resources for learning astrology is joining all these Facebook groups and listening.
Some groups,
joining these Facebook groups and reading all the things that people say and they post. And I haven't posted anything or barely commented on anything, but I get a lot of information from them.
So they're like how involved you are. You don't have to go there and tell your whole story and be involved, but you can go there and just start getting resources. And I feel like, again, the knowledge part of it, nobody can take that away from you. You know, getting experiences and getting around other people and getting into physical groups and then really finding like good friends as support is different. But when you're just starting on this journey with learning how to love difficult people or get through difficult times or just, you know, whatever you're working through in your relationships, these groups can often lead you to something that really helps. And this is where I love that the universe will come in and be like, oh my God, the one time I went, it's like they showed a book and you read that book and that changed things for you. It can happen so fast. So I feel like when we open ourselves up to other information or other sources, that allows the universe to come in and be like, yep, this is exactly how we're going to get her right to that place she needs to go.
Well, you know, I've over the winter, I thought to myself, yeah, you know, I think I'm getting close to the point where I want to be in a relationship again. And I hadn't really thought, I was like, I'm good, I'm content, I'm happy. And I am. But I decided that at some point that I would put myself out there again and try to date.
Yeah.
And so because of my history with dating and being the fixer and all of that stuff, and like never having had a
Walls
truly
but no boundaries.
walls but no boundaries, and
Yeah.
never having had a truly healthy relationship, I started following some dating
Oh yeah,
people
that's
that
right.
I really like. So
Yes.
there's one, Jenny Young. She has a method that she calls the burned haystack dating method. So I follow and read all of her stuff, and it's very enlightening, you know,
Yeah.
and will help me when the time comes when I'm ready
Yeah.
to like put myself out there onto
Yeah.
the dating apps, because this is how people meet people anymore.
I know.
Yeah. Loving difficult people in your life is one of the hardest, yet most rewarding acts of compassion. It truly is an act of compassion. Remember, you're not here to fix or save anyone. You're here to support them with healthy boundaries and unconditional love while honoring your own journey in the process.
Until next time, we want you to keep loving, keep growing, and don't forget to take care of yourself first. We love you, witches.
Bye,
See
witches.
you next week.